like to tell you all about a great American. The names have been changed to protect the normal. Back in 1997, I had a very close friend that attended the University of Florida, and he lived in the dorm room there in a co-op. And it was all male on the particular floor, female, so on and so forth. And females would occasionally visit the male floor and yada yada. But anyway, in 1997, there was one of his dorm mates happened to be a United States Marine. Now, this is at the University of Florida, right? So naturally, you have ROTC people and whatnot. Well, this particular Marine was in the Marine Reserve. We'll call him Corporal George Boogan. Anyway, Corporal B was not in ROTC. Corporal B was pursuing a degree and going on, I assume, either to stay in the reserve or go to OCS and eventually become an officer. So, as opposed to what would normally be the case, which you could be a Navy midshipman for 4 years and serve with the Navy and then do partial duty. I think one of your years you do partial duty in the Marines. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Corporal B went ahead and worked as a Marine the whole entire time. Now, the interesting thing about the Corporal is he was a Marine's Marine. You may have met some of these guys. He had adopted what I will refer to as a war voice. I know some of you guys may be familiar with the war face from Full Metal Jacket, like the "Ah! That's a war face!" Anyway, some of these Marines will adopt what I would call a war voice, and they begin to talk like this all the time. So, here's the Corporal. He's got a war voice. Now, the other thing you may notice about some Marines and probably some soldiers is they're either dressed or they're not. What I mean by that is civilians may be willing to wear shorts and a shirt or pants or whatever when they're hanging around the dorm. Not the Corporal. He would be walking around in a white crew neck shirt and boxer short underwear and flip-flops. Until at which point he either A, went to class, or B, hung out at the little loading dock waiting for his ride for his 1 weekend a month or 2 weeks a year. So here's this dude, and he didn't have his own television, so he would always hang out in the common room, which was a little area in the dorm that had the oven, the television, and whatnot. And Corporal B would watch the Springer Show, and he would commentate on it. Now, the Corporal was referred to as the old man in the dorm. Old being a very relative term, as we were all 21 years old, and I can't tell you exactly how old George was, but relatively speaking, let's assume he was 26, 27. But you wouldn't know it. I had always assumed that he was underage because whenever we would have beer and I would be hanging out with my friend, he'd be mooching off of the beer. He'd come into the room and he'd be like, hey, you boys got any sauce? And, we'd give him some beer, and I just assumed either he was underage or what have you. And not that I would ever consider giving an underage person a beer, because that would just be wrong. But he would also say, hey, you boys gonna go on a beer run later? And I'd say, well, we were thinking about it. And he'd be like, hey, well, let me know when you guys get back. I'm like, well, George, you want to come with us? You want to buy some beer? No, just let me know when you guys get back. So anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story was, here's this Corporal, United States Marine in this dorm, walking around in his underwear on a college dorm. Maybe there were ROTC people on the floor that year. I'm not 100% sure, but they didn't mess with him. They didn't give him a hard time or anything else, and nobody said anything about this dude being in his underpants. But back to the story about relating it to the war voice. So he had this war voice, and it was like the dude was just born at Paris Island. It was as if he knew nothing of pop culture or anything. He would be positively enamored by the silliest things. The Springer Show was pretty popular back in 97, and like I said, George watched a lot of the Springer Show. He comes into the room one time, and he goes, "Hey, you boys watch that Springer Show?" I'm like, "Yeah, George, we've seen it." "Yeah, man, they had these transvestites. Yeah, it's apparently these dudes, they're like dudes, but they dress up like chicks." And we'd be like, "Yeah, that's cool, yeah." And George would just be like, "Man, that shit's messed up." I mean, that's just how the dude rolled. He was awesome. He was a great American, and man, I hope he's still with us, because I am sure that the dude is a general by now, because he is a Marine's Marine, a man's man, a soldier's and one hell of a great American. Hey, and thanks for listening to me ramble on, and for all you guys out there, turn up the volume.